Warning. This video will stop your heart. If you're brave enough, watch this terrifying mysterious murder video until the end. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Before the first light of dawn struck the Maine coastline, the night still hung over the ocean like a dark and menacing shroud. Wave sounds rhythmically crashed against the rocks while cold wind howled through the coastal pine trees. This deserted beach strip north of Portland had an eerie atmosphere even on normal days. However, this morning, a terror waiting in the darkness filled the air with an almost tangible weight. There was another smell in the air mixed with the rotting scent of seaweed, not fresh, but not yet completely decomposed flesh. When this smell first hit the nose of retired teacher Harold Weinstein, who had come to the beach for an early morning jog, the man hesitated for a moment. In his 65 years of life, he had encountered many things, but this smell was different, a primal warning, a signal from the depths of the human brain saying, "Stay away." Yet his curiosity drove him forward. His dog Max, a golden retriever, had latched onto something among the rocks and was barking excitedly. Harold gripped his dog's leash tightly and followed him. The rocks beneath his shoes were wet and slippery, covered with moss. As he walked through the sea fog, his field of vision gradually narrowed, and the world around him disappeared. And then he saw it. Among the rocks, lying half submerged in water, was the body of a young woman. Pale, almost translucent skin, long dark hair mixed with wet sand, and those eyes, open, lifeless eyes frozen with endless fear and astonishment. The woman wore a white men's shirt, adorned with bloodstains that had turned pink from the seawater. Harold's knees began to tremble. A wave of nausea rose in his stomach. Max was still barking, but the sound seemed to come from very far away. The man stumbled backward, nearly falling as he tried to pull out his phone. His fingers trembling, breath short, he couldn't remember how many seconds it took to dial 911. "Emergency, a body, please help." The words spilled from his mouth while his eyes couldn't look away from that body. Detective Daniel Cross from the Portland Police Department was in a deep sleep when the phone rang. At 42 years old, having worked in the homicide division for 20 years, Cross knew very well what these kinds of calls meant. When he saw "Center" on the phone screen, the last remnants of his sleep vanished. Within 3 minutes, he had gotten dressed, gotten in his car, and headed to the scene. When he arrived at the beach at dawn, the scene was already cordoned off with police tape. Patrol cars illuminated the foggy morning with their blue-red lights, technicians were preparing their equipment, and the first response team was speaking with witness Harold Weinstein. As Cross got out of his car, his partner Detective Marcus Johnson also arrived. 35 years old, intelligent, and a meticulous colleague. "What's the situation?" Cross asked Johnson, his eyes still locked on the body among the rocks. A young woman, estimated to be in her 20s. "There are signs of blunt force trauma to the head region. Identity hasn't been determined yet," Johnson reported as if reading from a report. "It's unclear how long the body was underwater, but based on body temperature and rigor mortis, time of death was approximately 36 to 48 hours ago." Cross approached the rocks, putting on plastic gloves and taking careful steps to avoid contaminating the scene. In every step, years of experience spoke. A crime scene wasn't just a place of death, it was a story, and every detail was part of that story. When he looked at the woman more closely, details began to become clear. On the skull, under the scalp, 2 distinct swellings, struck with a blunt object, probably 2 separate blows. The first probably stunned her, the second was lethal. Cross looked at the woman's face, a beautiful face, now transformed by death into a mask. Her lips slightly parted, as if trying to say something with her last breath. "This shirt," Cross pointed to the large men's shirt on the woman. "It's not hers. Men's shirt, large size. There are bloodstains, but we don't know if all of this is the victim's blood, or if there's also someone else's blood." Dr. Sarah Chen from the forensic team, an elderly but extremely skilled doctor, came to Cross's side. Her hands were also gloved, and there was a professional coldness in her eyes. When you encounter death this frequently, your emotional armor thickens. Preliminary examination shows 2 blunt force traumas. In the temporal region, Dr. Chen pointed to the sides of the skull. There are signs of fracture. Probably struck with a heavy, flat object, stick, pipe, maybe a baseball bat. 2 blows, first to the left temporal, second to the right temporal. The attacker probably struck from the left first, then delivered the second blow from the right as the victim was falling or trying to turn. Defense wounds? Cross asked. None on the hands. We'll look under the nails, maybe we'll find DNA. But at first glance, she doesn't appear to have fought back. Maybe she wasn't expecting the attack, maybe it was someone she knew. Cross nodded, scenarios beginning to form in his mind. Someone familiar. Someone she trusted. And then betrayal. Any other trauma on the body? Signs of sexual assault? Dr. Chen shook her head. No tears in clothing, no obvious signs of sexual assault for now. But I'll do the full autopsy in the lab. Toxicology results will also be important. Maybe she was drugged, maybe intoxicated. Technicians were taking photographs, collecting evidence. From every angle, every detail. Cross-examined the general view of the scene. The body had been found among the rocks, slightly above the tide line. Seawater had washed away evidence, perhaps erased important traces. But did the killer want the body to be found here, or had they failed while trying to throw it into the sea? This man, Johnson pointed to witness Harold, was jogging in the morning. His dog caught the scent of the body and went after it. The man is in shock, but we got his statement. He didn't see or hear anything else. No one was here at night, at least as far as they know. Cross looked around. The coastal road was at least half a kilometer away, after a tree-covered path. In the darkness of night, carrying a body here would require planning, a vehicle, physical strength. Any footprints, tire tracks, any traces? Cross asked. The technical team is searching. But the ground is wet, and the tide could have erased anything that was left. We'll look at the path, maybe we'll be luckier there. As the sun rose, the eerie atmosphere of the scene had lightened somewhat, but Cross's inner unease had increased. This wasn't just a murder. This was something that required accumulation, thought. And that shirt was a clue, a message, perhaps. So why did the killer put this shirt on her? And who wanted to kill Jennifer? If you're curious, keep watching the video. And if you'd like, before we solve this mystery, you can support us by subscribing and clicking the like button. Around noon, in the Homicide Division office of the Portland Police Department, Cross and Johnson had begun compiling initial information. On the wall was a large white board with the victim's photographs, scene images, and initial notes pinned to it. This board would fill up in the coming weeks, perhaps months, clues, suspects, connections, dead ends. We took fingerprints for identification, Johnson said, looking at the computer screen. We're waiting for a match in the database. We're also searching missing persons reports. Young women reported missing in Portland and surrounding areas in the last week. Cross, with a coffee cup in hand, looked out the window. Portland's gray sky had settled over the city like a heavy blanket. In his head, the woman's face kept spinning, that frozen expression of fear, those open eyes. There's something, Cross said in a thoughtful voice. This isn't an unplanned murder. They killed her, maybe tried to throw her in the sea, or deliberately chose to leave her on that beach. That shirt, they put that shirt on her. Why? Maybe they're hiding her own clothes, Johnson suggested. DNA, fiber evidence, to erase it all. Maybe. But why go to the trouble of putting a shirt on? Why not leave her naked, or in her own clothes? This question hung in the air. In the afternoon, the expected news came. The fingerprint results had found a match. The victim's identity had been determined. Her name is Jennifer Morrison. Johnson handed the file to Cross. 28 years old. Lives in Portland. Works in real estate. A shareholder and one of the chief executives of Morrison Real Estate Holdings. Quite a wealthy family. Cross looked at the photo in the file. Jennifer Morrison, with lively eyes, a smiling face, full of life. Now, she was lying on an autopsy table. Family? Cross asked. She has an older sister, Katherine Morrison. She's also the other partner in the company. Their parents died in a traffic accident last year. The company was left to the two sisters. Katherine reported Jennifer missing a few days ago. Cross's heart quickened. A few days ago? When exactly? Johnson looked at the screen. 4 days ago. Katherine Morrison said her sister hadn't answered her phones for 3 days, hadn't come home. But, there's an interesting detail. What is it? Katherine Morrison didn't go to the police immediately. She only filed a missing person report, but didn't request an investigation. Even though she doesn't look suspicious, it's as if she was hiding something. Cross narrowed his eyes. Let's go to her immediately. But first let's gather some more background information. What does this Morrison Real Estate Holdings do? What's their financial situation? Do they have enemies? The hours ahead turned into an intense research marathon. Morrison Real Estate Holdings was a medium-sized but quite profitable firm that developed luxury residences and commercial buildings in Portland and surrounding areas. Their parents had founded the company, leaving a good inheritance to their daughters. Jennifer and Katherine managed the company together, or at least that's how it appeared. Cross looked at the company's financial records for the past year. There was a noteworthy detail. 3 weeks ago, a transfer of $2 million had been made from the company account. The transfer had gone to an offshore account, Cayman Islands. It was marked as investment, but Cross's experience told him that these types of transfers usually served other purposes. $2 million, Cross thought aloud. It coincides with Jennifer's disappearance. Johnson nodded. You think ransom? Maybe. Or a kidnapping. Katherine might know Jennifer was kidnapped, paid the ransom, but didn't go to the police. Why? Fear, or something else? But Jennifer is dead. Why would they kill her after taking the ransom? It doesn't make sense. Maybe Jennifer knew the kidnappers, Cross thought with cold logic. Maybe when they released her, she could have exposed them. Or maybe this wasn't about ransom at all. Maybe that $2 million was used for something else, and Jennifer's death has another reason. As evening darkness enveloped Portland, Cross and Johnson set out to meet with Katherine Morrison. Katherine's house was in the city's northern district, in a luxury neighborhood, a modern architectural residence with an ocean view. When they came to the door, a woman greeted them, mid-30s. She resembled Jennifer but had harsher features. Her eyes were red. She had clearly been crying, but there was a strange tension in her face. Katherine Morrison? Cross showed his badge. I'm Detective Cross, this is Detective Johnson. We need to talk about Jennifer. A moment of panic crossed Katherine's face, then she composed herself. Did you find Jennifer? Is she okay? Cross looked into the woman's eyes. May we come in? Katherine stepped back, let them into the living room. The living room was furnished with expensive furniture, abstract paintings hung on the walls. Everything was perfect, sterile, cold. Ms. Morrison, Cross sat across from the woman. I need to give you very sad news. Jennifer's body was found on the beach this morning. She was murdered. Katherine's face turned ashen. Her hands began to tremble. Tears flowed from her eyes. No, this can't be. Jennifer, my sister. The woman leaned forward, put her head in her hands, sobs came from her throat. Cross and Johnson waited silently. The grief was real, Cross could see that. But under the grief was something else, guilt, fear, it was unclear. After a few minutes, Katherine composed herself, wiped her face. How did she die? She was struck on the head with a heavy object. Do you have any idea who the attacker might be? Katherine shook her head, but her eyes avoided crosses. I don't know. Jennifer was a good person, I can't think of anyone who would want to hurt her. 4 days ago you reported Jennifer missing, Johnson interjected. But you didn't request a detailed investigation. Why? Katherine bit her lip. I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe Jennifer just went somewhere, wasn't answering her phones. I didn't want to overreact. But not hearing from her for 3 days didn't worry you? It worried me, but, Katherine stopped, trying to choose her words. Jennifer sometimes did that. She would disappear, then come back. I thought maybe it was like that again. Cross leaned forward. Ms. Morrison, I'm going to ask you directly. Was Jennifer kidnapped? Katherine's eyes widened with fear. What? No, why would you think that? Because 3 weeks ago, a transfer of $2 million was made from the company account to the Cayman Islands. This is very close to the timing of Jennifer's disappearance. Was that money ransom? Katherine's mask cracked. Her head dropped, her hands trembled. The silence was heavy, even breathing was difficult for the woman. Yes, she finally said in a very low voice. Jennifer was kidnapped. 3 weeks ago. On her way home, someone kidnapped her. They called me, demanded $2 million. They said they'd kill Jennifer if I went to the police. Cross's heart was pounding. Continue. I gathered the money. I was alone, so scared. I gave them the money, left it where they told me. They said they'd release Jennifer in a week. But nothing happened. Days passed, I didn't hear anything. Neither from Jennifer nor from the kidnappers. I filed a missing person report, but I didn't tell the police about the ransom. I was afraid, I thought maybe they were still holding Jennifer. Who were the kidnappers? Did you know them? No. I only spoke on the phone. They used a voice changer. I never saw their identities. Where did you leave the money? A parking lot. Midnight, outside the city. They told me to put it in my car trunk, I went there, left the car, walked away. When I came back, the car was there but the money was gone. Cross nodded, pieces beginning to come together in his mind. Are there parking lot camera recordings? I don't know. But I don't think it would help. It was very dark, and they were very careful. The kidnappers killed Jennifer. They took the money, but they didn't release her. Why? Do you have any idea? Katherine started crying again. I don't know, maybe Jennifer knew them. Maybe she saw their identities, and they couldn't take the risk. Or there's another reason. Another reason? Johnson asked. Katherine fixed her eyes on Cross. A determination had emerged within her now, as if she had made a decision. There was a disagreement within the company. Between Jennifer and me. We couldn't agree on financial matters. I wanted to grow the company, make new investments. Jennifer was more conservative, she didn't like risks. A few weeks ago, we had a big fight. What was the fight about? I had found an investor for a new project. But Jennifer opposed the deal. She said this investor's background wasn't clean, that we shouldn't do business with him. I thought it was a great opportunity. We argued, Jennifer told me I was betraying her. Cross's eyes sharpened. Who is this investor? His name is Ethan Drake. A local businessman, in the construction sector. But if what Jennifer said is true, he has connections with organized crime. Ethan Drake. Did this name make you suspicious too? How much does Katherine know about her own sister's death? Don't leave the video to learn the answers. By the way, we're curious how many people guessed this case correctly. What's your opinion? Write to us in the comments. As midnight approached, Cross and Johnson returned to the station. In front of computer screens, they began researching everything about Ethan Drake. Drake, 48 years old, had built a construction empire in Portland, but his past was full of suspects. He had been investigated twice for organized crime connections, but the cases had been dropped due to insufficient evidence. In the FBI file, there were suspicions that Drake was cooperating with the local mafia, laundering money. "This man is dangerous," Johnson said while reading the file. If Jennifer refused to do business with Drake, and Drake had invested a lot in this deal, maybe he wanted to eliminate Jennifer. Or, Cross thought, there was a deal between Katherine and Drake, and Jennifer was the obstacle. Could Katherine have had her sister killed? Johnson looked at Cross in astonishment. Her own sister? Money, power, greed. People have done worse things for bigger reasons. Cross's voice was tired and melancholic. But we don't have any evidence yet. Just theories. Let's talk to Ethan Drake tomorrow. Let's also closely monitor Katherine. Phone records, bank transactions, everything. As the sun rose, the Portland Police Department's technical team was examining the men's shirt on Jennifer Morrison. The shirt was laid out on a sterile table in the forensic laboratory, under bright fluorescent lights. Every stain, every fiber, every trace was being examined under microscopes, undergoing chemical tests. Forensic technician Amy Chen was scanning the shirt centimeter by centimeter. There were bloodstains on the front of the shirt, turned brown when dried, absorbed into the fabric. Blood type tests would be conducted. Was it Jennifer's blood, or someone else's blood? DNA analyses could take weeks, but this shirt was the most important evidence. On the collar, there was a small label. Brand, Brooks Brothers. Size, large. An expensive shirt, but also ordinary. Thousands of men wore this brand. Below the label, there was a mark embroidered in fine letters, a laundry tag, Dry Clean Plus, Portland. A dry cleaning company. Amy immediately reported this detail. When Cross received this information on the phone, a ray of hope gleamed. Research Dry Clean Plus. Let's find out who had this shirt cleaned, if there are records. At noon, Cross and Johnson prepared to go to Ethan Drake's office. Drake's office was in Portland's financial district, in a modern skyscraper, on the 15th floor. Luxury decoration, city views from wide windows, everything smelled of power and money. The secretary took them to Drake's room. Ethan Drake was sitting behind his desk, in a dark suit, with a confident demeanor. Handsome, but cold, his eyes sharp, there was a calculating air in his every movement. "Detectives," Drake greeted with just a nod, without standing up. "I was expecting you. I heard about Jennifer Morrison's death. A terrible incident. You were expecting us?" Cross sat across from the desk. "Why?" Drake, with a slight smile, said, "We had a business relationship with Jennifer Morrison. When her death was announced, I guessed the police would want to talk to me." There was a calmness in his voice, as if a murder investigation was just one of his daily affairs. Cross studied Drake. The man looked relaxed, but there was something in the depths of his eyes, perhaps vigilance, perhaps calculation. Years of experience had taught Cross that the calmest-looking ones were usually the most dangerous. "What kind of business relationship did you have?" Cross asked, taking out his notebook. "We were having partnership discussions with Morrison Real Estate Holdings. Using their land portfolio in Portland, we were planning to develop a large residential project with my construction company. A $500 million project. Katherine Morrison said Jennifer was against this project. Is that correct?" A twitch occurred on Drake's face, very brief, but Cross didn't miss it. Jennifer was more cautious. She was worried about the project's risks. But I believed she would eventually be convinced. Convinced? Or coerced? Johnson interjected, his voice sharp. Drake gave Johnson a cold look. I'm a businessman, detective. I don't resort to force. I convince with logic. Mr. Drake, Cross leaned forward, where were you when Jennifer was kidnapped? Kidnapping? Drake's eyebrows rose, he appeared surprised. But Cross knew this could be an act. I had no idea Jennifer was kidnapped. A ransom of $2 million was paid. Katherine told us. Jennifer was kidnapped 3 weeks ago, ransom was paid, but Jennifer never came back. Now she's dead. Do you know anything about this? Drake leaned back, his fingers interlaced. He was thinking, or appearing to think. No. Katherine didn't tell me anything. I didn't know about the kidnapping. Will you benefit from Jennifer's death? Cross asked the question directly. Drake's eyes hardened. Detective Cross, Jennifer's death doesn't serve my interests. On the contrary, the project is in jeopardy. We may have to terminate the agreement with Katherine. This is a loss for me. Or, Johnson added, Katherine is now the sole owner of the company. Maybe it will be easier to deal with her. Drake stood up, signaling the conversation was over. Detectives, I'm not a murder suspect. I operate in the business world, within the framework of the law. If you don't have anything to charge me with, you should talk to my lawyer. Cross also stood up, making eye contact with Drake. There was a silent tension between the two men, like an invisible power struggle. For now, we're just gathering information, Mr. Drake. But we'll be talking to you again. As they left the office, Johnson turned to Cross. This man is lying. I can feel it. Maybe. But we need evidence. For now, we only have suspicion. Let's thoroughly investigate Drake's past records. Phone records, financial movements, business partners. He must have made a mistake somewhere. In the afternoon, Cross and Johnson went to Dry Clean Plus Dry Cleaning Company. The shop was on an ordinary street in Portland's middle-class neighborhood. Inside smelled of chemicals and clean laundry. Behind the counter, a man in his 50s with glasses was serving customers. Cross showed his badge. I'm Detective Cross. We're going to get information about a shirt that was cleaned here. The man asked with a worried expression, is there a problem? No, just an investigation. Do you recognize this shirt? Cross showed the shirt photo on his phone, the laundry tag on the collar was clearly visible. The man looked at the photo, squinted his eyes. That's our tag. But we clean thousands of shirts. It's hard for me to remember this particular shirt. Do you have records? Can you find the customer from this tag number? The man turned to the computer, entered the tag number. A few seconds later, a result appeared on the screen. Found it. This shirt was cleaned 6 months ago. Customer name. Brandon Cole. Cross and Johnson looked at each other. Brandon Cole, this name sounded familiar. Cross tried to rack his brain, where had he heard this name? Is there any other information about Brandon Cole? Address, phone number? The man read from the computer screen. Address, 1847 Maple Street, Portland. Phone number not registered. Cross noted the address. Thank you. You've been very helpful. Outside the shop, Johnson immediately started researching Brandon Cole with his phone. Found him. Brandon Cole, 34 years old, works in the construction sector. Project manager at Ethan Drake's company. Cross's heart quickened. Connection. Drake and Cole. The shirt belonged to Cole. But how did Cole put the shirt on Jennifer? Let's go to Cole's house immediately. But let's take precautions, call for backup. If this man is Jennifer's killer, he could be dangerous. Brandon Cole's house was on the second floor of an old apartment building in Portland's working-class neighborhood. Patrol cars arrived first, securing the street. Cross and Johnson, along with two other detectives, approached the building entrance. They had a search warrant. It had been issued urgently. The judge understood the seriousness of Jennifer Morrison's murder. They knocked on the door. Silence. They knocked again, harder. Brandon Cole. Police. Open the door. There was still no answer. Cross kicked the door, the lock broke, the door swung wide open. Inside was dark, silent. There was a heavy smell, rotten food, sweaty laundry, and a faint smell of blood. With guns drawn, they entered carefully. The living room was messy, sofas overturned, glass broken, as if there had been a fight. In the kitchen, dishes were piled up, smells rising from the trash can. Check the bedroom, Cross ordered. While Johnson and the other detectives went to the bedroom, Cross looked at the bathroom. The bathroom was full of bloodstains. Sink, walls, bathtub, blood traces everywhere. Someone had lost a lot of blood here. Cross put on his glove, lifted a towel from the sink. The towel was also covered with blood, dried, dark red stains. Cross. Come here. Johnson's voice came from the bedroom, urgent and tense. Cross ran to the bedroom. On the bed, the sheets were stained with blood. But more importantly, a box had been pulled out from under the bed. Inside were photographs, documents, and a gun. The photographs were of Jennifer Morrison, taken by someone following her, at different times, in different places. The documents were Jennifer's daily routines, the places she went, times, a detailed surveillance report. This man was following Jennifer, Johnson said, looking at the photographs, his voice trembling. A planned murder. Maybe weeks, maybe months of preparation. Cross examined the gun. Glock 19, a standard handgun. But there were blood traces on the barrel. This gun may have been used for blunt trauma. He may have struck with the butt. But where is Brandon Cole? Johnson looked around. The house is empty. He may have fled. Cross went to the window, looked outside. There were patrol cars on the street, but Cole's car wasn't there. Issue an APB. Brandon Cole, white male, 34 years old, fugitive murder suspect. Armed and may be dangerous. Notify all units. The technical team began examining the house from top to bottom. Blood samples were taken, fingerprints were lifted, every piece of evidence was collected. Cross, in the bedroom, looked at the photographs again. Jennifer's face, in every photograph, that beautiful, innocent face. The man who followed her had watched her, planned, and finally killed her. But why? Just on Drake's orders, or was there another motivation? This is exactly where the story gets even darker. To learn why Brandon Cole killed Jennifer and Ethan Drake's real role in this murder, keep watching the video until the end. If you're interested in true crime stories and detective cases, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Cross's phone rang. The caller was Dr. Sarah Chen from the forensic laboratory. Detective Cross, I've completed the autopsy report. There's an interesting finding on Jennifer Morrison's body. What is it? We detected high doses of rohypnol in Jennifer's blood. A sedative. Jennifer had been drugged before she was killed. She was probably unconscious, had no chance to resist. Cross's heart sank. Jennifer had suffered terribly, even in her last moments. Drugged, kidnapped, and then killed. How was the rohypnol administered? Probably mixed into her drink. We found alcohol and drug residues in her stomach contents. Jennifer had wine a few hours before she was killed. The drug must have been put in the wine. Thank you, Dr. Chen. This information is very important. After hanging up, Cross turned to Johnson. Jennifer was drugged. Someone convinced her to drink wine, put drugs in it. It must have been someone she trusted. Brandon Cole? Maybe. Or someone else. We need to interrogate Katherine again. And we need to look more closely at Drake. As midnight approached, the police station stood like a beacon of hope in the dark city with its lit windows. Cross and Johnson were re-evaluating all the information in front of the whiteboard. New photographs had been pinned to the board: Brandon Cole's house, bloodstains, the gun, surveillance photos. Brandon Cole is the killer, Johnson summarized. He followed Jennifer for months, prepared the kidnapping plan. He works for Ethan Drake. Drake probably gave Cole the order. But the ransom? Cross objected. If Drake wants to kill Jennifer, why take ransom? They got $2 million from Katherine. Drake doesn't need money, the man is already rich. Maybe to confuse the trail. The murder was made to look like a kidnapping. The police look for organized crime, suspicion doesn't fall on Drake. Cross nodded, but wasn't completely convinced. Something was missing, a piece still wasn't in place. Let's bring Katherine in again. Tomorrow morning, for questioning. And let's examine Drake's financial records more deeply. Let's see if there are any payments made to Brandon Cole. As the morning sun lit up Portland, Katherine Morrison was sitting in the police station's interrogation room. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale, she looked like she hadn't slept for the past 2 days. Across the table, Cross and Johnson had spread out files in front of them: bank records, phone records, Jennifer's autopsy report. Ms. Morrison, Cross began, his voice gentle but determined. We need to ask you a few more questions. Every detail is important to solve Jennifer's death. Katherine nodded silently. Her hands were clasped together on the table. Have you heard the name Brandon Cole? Katherine's eyebrows furrowed, she thought. Brandon Cole, no, I don't think so. Who is he? Project manager at Ethan Drake's company. The shirt on Jennifer belonged to Cole. And we found evidence in his house that he was following Jennifer. Katherine's face filled with horror. Ethan's man? So, did Ethan have Jennifer killed? We can't say anything definitive yet, Johnson replied. But there are connections. Brandon Cole is currently a fugitive. We're trying to find him. Cross pulled out a file, placed it in front of Katherine. These are your phone records. In the last 2 months, you've been in contact with Ethan Drake very frequently. Dozens of calls, long conversations. Were they just business calls, or something else? Katherine looked at the records, hesitation appeared on her face. Most were business calls. Project details, contract terms. Most? So some weren't? Cross pressed. Katherine looked away. Ethan and I, we got close. Beyond the business relationship. But this has nothing to do with Jennifer's death. You got close, Johnson repeated. How close? Katherine's face flushed, an expression of shame and anger mixed. We had a relationship. But it was personal. It has nothing to do with Jennifer's death. Cross leaned forward, his voice hardened. Ms. Morrison, your sister was killed. The man you were in a relationship with may be behind the kidnapping and murder. And you didn't tell us this. Why? Tears spilled from Katherine's eyes. Because I was scared. I didn't even want to think that Ethan had anything to do with this. He treated me well, he understood me. After the tension between Jennifer and me, Ethan supported me. Tension? Johnson asked. What kind of tension was there between you and Jennifer? Katherine took a deep breath, trying to find the words. Jennifer wanted to manage the company differently than I did. I wanted to grow, take risks, enter new projects. Jennifer was more conservative, wanted to stay safe. We had constant disagreements. At one point, we even talked about splitting the company in two. And was Ethan Drake aware of this disagreement? Yes. Ethan took my side. He said Jennifer was cowardly, that she was missing opportunities. He encouraged me. Cross looked carefully into Katherine's eyes. There was guilt on the woman's face, deep guilt. Ms. Morrison, I'm going to ask you directly. Did you make a plan with Ethan Drake to kill Jennifer? Katherine's mouth opened, she was in shock. What? No. Never. I wouldn't have my sister killed. How can you think such a thing? Because, Cross continued in a cold voice, you paid the ransom. $2 million. But you were told not to go to the police by the kidnappers. And you didn't. You waited for days. While Jennifer was dying, you were waiting. Why? Katherine began to sob, her voice hoarse. I was scared. They said they'd kill Jennifer if I went to the police. I just wanted my sister back. Or, Johnson added, you wanted Jennifer to die. The ransom was a cover. Ethan and you planned to eliminate Jennifer together. The company would be yours, you'd do the project with Ethan, there would be no obstacle. No. Katherine jumped up, hit the table. This isn't true. I loved Jennifer. She was my sister. Cross forced Katherine to sit down, his voice calm but authoritative. Ms. Morrison, we're just looking for the truth. If you're innocent, help us. Do you know Brandon Cole? Have you ever met him? Katherine shook her head, continuing to cry. No. I'm hearing his name from you for the first time. The night you left the ransom, was there anyone else there? Anyone following you, watching you? I don't know, it was very dark. I was alone, so scared. I left the money, walked away. I didn't see anyone. Cross and Johnson looked at each other. Katherine's statement was consistent, but there was doubt within them. Was the woman truly innocent, or was she a very good actress? Ms. Morrison, Cross stood up, you can go for now. But don't leave the city. We'll be talking to you again. And if anything else comes to mind, call us immediately. Katherine stood up trembling, left the room. After the door closed, Johnson turned to Cross. What do you think? I don't know, Cross admitted. Maybe innocent, maybe guilty. But Ethan Drake definitely knows something. Let's interrogate him again, this time harder. In the afternoon, a tip came in about Brandon Cole. Cole had been seen at a motel in Portland's South Side. The SWAT team mobilized, Cross and Johnson went with them. The motel was cheap, filthy, roadside, a place where fugitives and drug addicts took refuge. The SWAT team identified the room Cole was staying in, number 12. They silently surrounded the door, weapons ready. The commander gave the signal, the door was broken, the team rushed in. Brandon Cole. Hands up. Inside the room, Cole was sitting on the bed. A bottle of whiskey in his hand, his eyes bloodshot, his beard grown. His gun was beside him, on the bed. For a moment, everyone froze, would Cole reach for his gun? But Cole covered his face with his hands, began to cry. It's over, everything's over. The SWAT team laid Cole on the ground, handcuffed him. Cross entered the room, crouched beside Cole. Brandon Cole, you're under arrest in connection with Jennifer Morrison's murder. You have the right to remain silent. Cole was still crying, his voice hoarse. I didn't want to do it, he forced me. Ethan forced me. Cross's heart quickened. Confession. Cole was going to confess. Brandon, tell me what happened. What did you do to Jennifer? Cole lifted his head, his eyes looked at Cross, eyes filled with fear, with remorse. Ethan gave me orders. He told me to kidnap Jennifer, get ransom. When we got the money, he told me to kill her. Jennifer was an obstacle to the project. Ethan wanted to eliminate her. Who took the ransom? I did. From where Katherine left it. I gave the money to Ethan. Did you kill Jennifer? Cole's face turned ashen. I didn't want to hit her. But Ethan said if I didn't, he'd kill me. I have a family too, children. I was scared. Cross stood up, his breath deep. The confession had been obtained. Brandon Cole had admitted to killing Jennifer Morrison. And Ethan Drake had ordered it. Take Brandon Cole away. And let's get an arrest warrant for Ethan Drake. Now. The killer has been caught, but the real question is, will the court find Drake guilty? Don't miss the surprising conclusion of this case. And if you love these kinds of true crime stories, don't forget to hit the like button and turn on notifications. Because new, terrifying and mysterious events await you every week. In the evening, Ethan Drake's luxury mansion was under police siege. Numerous patrol cars, SWAT team, helicopter. Drake had no chance of escape. Cross called out through a megaphone. Ethan Drake. Come out of the house, hands up. We have an arrest warrant. Silence. The house was dark and silent, light seeped through the windows but there was no movement. I'm saying this one last time. Come out, or we're coming in. The door slowly opened. Ethan Drake, in his suit, walked out with calm steps. His hands were in the air, there was a strange smile on his face, as if he knew everything, had planned everything. The police handcuffed Drake. Cross approached Drake, looked into his eyes. Ethan Drake, you're under arrest for planning and ordering Jennifer Morrison's murder. Drake continued to smile. Detective Cross, you're making a big mistake. I'm innocent. What Brandon Cole said is a lie. Brandon Cole confessed. He told everything. You ordered him to kill Jennifer. Confession? Drake laughed, a cold laugh. Words from a desperate man's mouth. I didn't do anything. I'll prove this in court. Drake was put into the police car, the sound of sirens echoed in the night darkness. Cross turned to Johnson. Do you think it's over? Johnson was thoughtful. Drake won't confess. He'll fight in court. But we have Brandon Cole's statement, we have evidence. We'll win. I hope so. Cross took a deep breath. I hope we can provide justice for Jennifer. When the trial process began, Portland Courthouse was filled with intense interest from the media and public. Jennifer Morrison's murder had made headlines in local news, even national media had begun to take interest. A young, beautiful, wealthy woman, murdered by her sister's boyfriend, the story was like a film noir script. The courtroom was in classic American style, wood paneling, high ceilings, the judge's bench in front, jury seats on the side, defendant and defense table opposite. Ethan Drake, in an expensive suit, sat with his lawyers. He had hired Richard Morrison, one of the best criminal lawyers. The name similarity was ironic. In the prosecution seat sat Assistant District Attorney Laura Bennett, 40 years old, sharp-minded, missing no detail, an impressive speaker before juries. Bennett would give the biggest fight of her career to win this case. Judge Thomas Harrington, an old and experienced judge, would oversee the case. Harrington had been on this bench for 30 years, had presided over thousands of cases, but the Jennifer Morrison case held special significance for him too. At the opening of the trial, Judge Harrington struck his gavel, the room fell silent. The Morrison case is now open. The prosecution may make its opening statement. Laura Bennett stood up, turned to the jury. The jury consisted of 12 people, from different ages, different backgrounds, but all would determine Jennifer Morrison's fate. Members of the jury, Bennett began, her voice strong and clear. In the coming days, I will tell you a story. A story of greed, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. Jennifer Morrison was a 28-year-old young woman. She was in the spring of her life, a successful businesswoman, a loving sister. But someone took her life away from her. That person is sitting across from you, Ethan Drake. Bennett pointed to Drake. Drake didn't move at all, the same confident expression on his face. The evidence will show, Bennett continued, that Ethan Drake made a plan to kill Jennifer Morrison. Using his employee Brandon Cole, he had Jennifer kidnapped, took ransom, and then had her brutally murdered. Why? Because Jennifer was an obstacle to Drake's business plans. Because Jennifer knew Drake's past, and could expose him. Because Drake had set his eyes on money and power, had forgotten the value of a human life. Bennett's voice rose, took on an emotional tone. Jennifer Morrison suffered terrible things in her last moments. She was drugged, kidnapped, struck on the head with a heavy object. On a cold beach, by the seashore, she died. And her killer is now in this room, sitting before you. The jury members looked at Drake. Some with suspicion, some with curiosity, some with anger. Bennett sat down. Now it was the defense's turn. Richard Morrison, Drake's lawyer, stood up. In his 60s, gray-haired, an elegant man, but with devilish intelligence in his eyes. Morrison turned to the jury, smiled, a warm, sincere smile. Members of the jury, Morrison began in a soft voice. The prosecution told you a story. A good story, a dramatic story. But this is just a story. Not the truth. The truth is that Ethan Drake is an innocent man. He didn't kill Jennifer Morrison, didn't have her killed. He didn't knowingly want her to come to harm. Morrison looked at Drake, nodded to him, then turned to the jury. Yes, Brandon Cole confessed. But Brandon Cole is a criminal. A drug addict, in debt, a desperate man. He made a deal with the police, accused Ethan Drake to reduce his sentence. But there's no evidence. No concrete proof showing Ethan Drake has any connection to this murder. Morrison leaned forward, approached the jury. The American legal system is based on the presumption of innocence. A person is considered innocent until the prosecution proves otherwise. The prosecution told you a story, but the story isn't real. My request to you is, look at the evidence. See the truth. And acquit Ethan Drake. Morrison sat down. Judge Harrington called the first witness. The first witness was Detective Daniel Cross. Cross went up to the witness stand, took the oath, sat down. Laura Bennett approached, began questioning. Detective Cross, when you first saw Jennifer Morrison's body, what did you think? Cross took a deep breath. I thought it was a planned murder. The body had been carefully placed. The shirt on her was a clue from the killer. That shirt belonged to Brandon Cole, didn't it? Yes. The laundry tag showed it belonged to Cole. And what did you find in Cole's house? Photographs following Jennifer Morrison, documents, and bloodstains. Cole had been watching Jennifer for months. Bennett turned to the jury. So Brandon Cole had planned to kidnap and kill Jennifer. It appears so. Was there a connection between Ethan Drake and Cole? Yes. Cole worked as project manager at Drake's company. Bennett nodded, no more questions. Now the defense's turn. Richard Morrison approached Cross, his eyes sharpened. Detective Cross, when you interrogated Brandon Cole, he told you Ethan Drake's name, correct? Yes. Did Cole make a deal to reduce his sentence? Cross hesitated. He made an agreement with the prosecution, yes. So Cole may have accused Ethan Drake to reduce his own sentence. Perhaps he lied? His confession was detailed. I don't think he lied. But you're not certain, are you? Morrison pressed. Cross became uncomfortable. I'm certain Cole told the truth. But there's no physical evidence. No phone records, messages, emails showing Ethan Drake gave Cole a murder order, correct? Cross remained silent. He was right. There was no direct evidence. Detective Cross, Morrison continued, you're only relying on Brandon Cole's word. You have no other evidence. Do you? Cole's confession is strong evidence. But the only evidence. And a criminal's word. Thank you, Detective. No further questions. Cross stepped down from the stand. He didn't feel comfortable. Morrison had planted doubt in the jury's minds. The next witness was Brandon Cole. Cole, in an orange prison jumpsuit, handcuffed, was brought into the courtroom. His face pale, his eyes filled with fear. He went up to the witness stand, took the oath. Laura Bennett approached Cole. Mr. Cole, did you kill Jennifer Morrison? Cole looked away, his voice trembled. Yes. Why? Ethan Drake gave me orders. What did Ethan Drake tell you? Cole took a deep breath, then told. Ethan came to me, a few months ago. He said Jennifer Morrison was an obstacle to our business project. Said we needed to eliminate her. I didn't accept at first, but Ethan pressured me. He said he'd pay off my debts, give me money. And if I didn't, he said he'd harm my family. The jury members listened carefully. Some were taking notes. What happened next? Bennett asked. I started following Jennifer. I learned where she went, when she was alone. Ethan made a kidnapping plan. We'd take ransom, then kill Jennifer. That way the police would look for organized crime, suspicion wouldn't fall on us. Did you take the ransom? Yes. Katherine Morrison left the money. I took it, gave it to Ethan. How did you kill Jennifer? Tears flowed from Cole's eyes. I drugged her. Put drugs in her wine. Then I hit her head. With my gun's butt. I hit her twice. She died. I took her body to the beach, tried to throw it in the sea but couldn't. I left it there. The room was silent. A terrible confession, vivid and horrifying. Bennett turned to the jury. Mr. Cole, are you remorseful? Yes, Cole sobbed. Every day I'm remorseful. Jennifer's face doesn't leave my mind. I wish I could go back to that day, not do it. Bennett sat down. Now the defense's turn. Richard Morrison approached Cole, but with a gentle expression. Mr. Cole, you're in a very difficult situation. You said your family was threatened. But there's no evidence that this threat was real, is there? Cole nodded. Ethan said so. I was scared. But maybe you killed Jennifer on your own. Maybe Ethan Drake had nothing to do with it. And now, to reduce your sentence, you're accusing him. No. Cole wanted to stand up, but the guards held him. Ethan gave me orders. He forced me. But there's no evidence, Morrison repeated calmly. Just your word. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Cole was taken down from the stand, still crying. The jury members looked at each other, minds confused. Days passed, witnesses came and went. Dr. Sarachan presented the autopsy report. Katherine Morrison, in tears, told how Jennifer was a good person, that she loved her. Financial experts explained the $2 million transfer. Forensic technicians presented blood samples, DNA results, fingerprints. Every piece of evidence showed Brandon Cole was guilty. But there was nothing definitively proving Ethan Drake's guilt. There was only Cole's word. The last witness was Katherine Morrison, going to the stand for the second time. This time, the defense had called her. Richard Morrison approached Katherine. Ms. Morrison, you had a relationship with Ethan Drake, correct? Katherine lowered her head. Yes. Did you love him? Yes. I loved him. And did Ethan Drake treat you badly? Did he harm you? No. He treated me well. Did Ethan Drake ever talk to you about killing Jennifer? Or harming Jennifer? Katherine remained silent, then slowly shook her head. No. Never. Morrison turned to the jury. So the man you loved never talked about violence? Never threatened? Ms. Morrison, in your opinion, could Ethan Drake have Jennifer killed? Tears flowed from Katherine's eyes. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I thought I knew Ethan, but you have doubts, don't you? You're not certain. No. I'm not certain. Morrison sat down. He had damaged Katherine's testimony, created doubt. Finally, closing arguments came. Laura Bennett stepped before the jury one last time. Members of the jury, Bennett began, her voice tired but determined. This case speaks not of lack of evidence, but abundance of evidence. Brandon Cole confessed. The shirt on Jennifer Morrison belonged to Cole. Cole's house was full of bloodstains. Financial records show Cole worked for Drake. All this evidence points to one truth: Ethan Drake, using Brandon Cole, had Jennifer Morrison killed. Bennett looked at Drake. The defense will tell you Cole lied. But why would he lie? Cole is already getting a life sentence. Accusing Ethan Drake doesn't benefit him. On the contrary, he's telling the truth. And I ask you to see this truth. Provide justice for Jennifer Morrison. Find Ethan Drake guilty. Bennett sat down. Now the defense's turn. Richard Morrison slowly stood up, approached the jury. Members of the jury, he said in a peaceful voice. The prosecution told you many things. But remember, in the American legal system, the prosecution must prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt. This is a very important concept. If you have any doubt in your mind, you must acquit the defendant. Morrison turned to Drake. Ethan Drake is a successful businessman. He's lived his life in accordance with the law. Brandon Cole is a criminal, drug addict, liar. Can you trust Cole's word? No. Because Cole will say anything to reduce his sentence. Accusing Ethan Drake is an easy way out for Cole. Morrison looked at the jury, into their eyes. My request to you is, look at the evidence. Where are the concrete proofs? No phone records, no messages, no direct connection. There's only a criminal's word. Is this proof beyond reasonable doubt? No. My request to you is, acquit Ethan Drake. Because he's innocent. Morrison sat down. Judge Harrington gave instructions to the jury withdrew for deliberation. Hours passed. The jury room was closed, inside 12 people were debating Jennifer Morrison's fate. Cross and Johnson were waiting in the courthouse corridor, drinking coffee, walking with nervous steps. It's taking long, Johnson complained. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? I don't know, Cross admitted. You never know what the jury is thinking. As evening darkness fell, the jury returned. The room filled, everyone took their places. Ethan Drake, at his table, no expression on his face. Katherine Morrison, in the spectator rose, her hands trembling. Judge Harrington asked the jury foreman. Has the jury reached a verdict? The jury foreman stood up. Yes, Your Honor. What is the verdict? The jury foreman read from a paper. In the Jennifer Morrison murder case, for defendant Ethan Drake, for first-degree murder, we find guilty. The room exploded at once. Applause, screams, crying. Katherine Morrison covered her face with her hands and began to cry. Ethan Drake froze, shock on his face. His lawyer whispered something beside him, but Drake wasn't hearing. Judge Harrington struck his gavel. Silence. Silence in the courtroom. The room slowly quieted. The judge turned to Drake. Ethan Drake, the jury has found you guilty. At the sentencing phase, your prison sentence will be determined. For now, you're in custody. The guards lifted Drake up, handcuffed him, took him away. Drake looked at Katherine one last time, hatred in his eyes, hatred for Katherine, or for himself, it wasn't clear. As the room emptied, Cross and Johnson went outside. The night air was cold, but refreshing. Cross took a deep breath. "We won," Johnson said, but there was no happiness in his voice. "We provided justice for Jennifer." "Yes," Cross replied, his eyes distant. "But Jennifer is still dead. No court decision can bring her back." Has justice been served? Or are there darker parts to the story? Don't leave the video for Drake's shocking end in prison and the big conspiracy revealed when the FBI gets involved. If you haven't liked our video so far, please don't forget to like it. The sentencing hearing was held 2 weeks later. The room was full again, but this time the atmosphere was different, heavier, more somber. Guilt had been proven, now came the sentence. Judge Harrington, at his bench, looked at Ethan Drake. Drake, in his suit, but now looked tired. The conviction had rotted his soul somehow. His eyes more sunken, his face paler. "Ethan Drake," the judge began. "The jury found you guilty of having Jennifer Morrison killed, of first-degree murder. In the American legal system, first-degree murder is the most serious crime. Its punishment is either life imprisonment or the death penalty. There is no death penalty in the state of Maine, therefore I sentence you to life imprisonment. Without possibility of parole." Drake's face didn't change. As if he knew the sentence beforehand. The judge continued. "Additionally, you will be required to pay compensation to Katherine Morrison and Jennifer Morrison's estate. Financial details will be determined in a separate case. I'm sending you to Maine State Prison. May God have mercy on your soul." The gavel struck. The case was closed. The guards removed Drake from the room. Cross and Johnson encountered Katherine in the corridor. The woman, her eyes teary but relief on her face. "Thank you," Katherine told Cross. "For Jennifer, for providing justice." Cross nodded. "It was our duty, Ms. Morrison. I hope you find some peace now." As Katherine walked away, Cross watched her. The woman had lost her sister, learned that the man she loved was a killer. Her life would never be the same. But the story didn't end there. Weeks later, while Cross was sitting in his office, the phone rang. The caller was Assistant Warden Robert Hayes from Maine State Prison. "Detective Cross, I need to give you some news. Ethan Drake hanged himself. He was found dead in his cell this morning." Cross's heart stopped. "What?" "He committed suicide. Used his bedsheet. Guards found him during morning check." "I'm very sorry." The phone hung up. Cross leaned against the desk, couldn't breathe. Drake was dead. He had killed himself. Johnson entered through the door, saw the expression on Cross's face. "What happened?" "Drake committed suicide. In prison." Johnson sat down in shock. "My God. Why?" "I don't know. Maybe he was remorseful. Maybe he saw his life was ruined. Maybe it was just an escape route." Cross stood up, went to the window. Portland's gray sky had settled over the city like a heavy blanket, as always. Jennifer is dead. Drake is dead. Brandon Cole is in prison, for life. Katherine is left alone, with her company, with her guilt. Who won? Johnson couldn't answer. Because he knew, in this case, there were no winners. Only losers. In the evening, when Cross returned home, his wife Emma was waiting at the door. Emma saw Cross's tired face, asked nothing, just hugged him. "Was it a hard day?" Emma asked quietly. "Yes," Cross whispered. "Very hard." That night, Cross couldn't sleep. When he closed his eyes, he saw Jennifer Morrison's face, on the beach, among the rocks, with that frozen expression of fear. Then he saw Ethan Drake's face, in the courtroom, when he looked at Katherine one last time, with those eyes full of hatred. The next morning, Cross went to his office, sat at his desk. The whiteboard was still there, full of photographs, notes. The Jennifer Morrison case was closed, but there were other files, other murders, other victims, other killers, retry. Johnson came in, brought 2 coffees. A new case came in. A body was found in South Portland. A young man, killed for unknown reasons. Cross took his coffee, drank. Let's get started then. Because this was his job. To give voice to the dead, to provide justice, to fight against darkness. Whether they won or lost in the Jennifer Morrison case, the fight continued. Months passed. Seasons changed, Portland's gray sky sometimes turned blue, sometimes it rained, sometimes it snowed. Life continued, slow, merciless, unstoppable. Katherine Morrison sold her company. Morrison Real Estate Holdings was transferred to another investment group. Katherine disappeared. Some said she had moved to another city, trying to build a new life. Some who saw her said the woman still looked sad, still broken. Brandon Cole was serving his life sentence at Maine State Prison. The remorse he showed before the jury continued in prison. Other inmates stayed away from him, because Cole was a woman killer, and woman killers weren't liked in prison. Cole spent his days in his lonely cell, thinking of Jennifer Morrison's face, burning with remorse. Cross and Johnson continued working at the homicide desk. New cases came, new murders, new victims. But the Jennifer Morrison case held a special place in Cross's mind. That case had taught him something, how money, power, greed corrupted people. And that justice was sometimes not entirely satisfying. A year later, Cross one day found a letter in his mailbox. The letter was from Katherine Morrison. Inside was a short note, handwritten. Detective Cross. I wanted to thank you. You provided justice for Jennifer. But I want you to know that I live with guilt every day. I had loved Ethan, and he deceived me. I lost Jennifer, and this pain will never pass. Sometimes I ask myself, am I guilty too? I couldn't protect Jennifer. Maybe if I had been more careful, maybe if I had seen Ethan's true face, Jennifer would still be alive. I'm writing this letter to say goodbye to you. I'm leaving Portland. I'm going to a new place, with a new name. I'm trying to leave my past behind. I hope you find peace too. Katherine. Cross read the letter, then slowly folded it and put it in his drawer. He understood Katherine's pain. Everyone had lost something in this case. That evening, Cross went home, had dinner with Emma. Then in the living room, while watching television, Emma turned to Cross. Are you still thinking about that case? Emma asked. The Jennifer Morrison case. Cross nodded. Yes. Sometimes. Why? The case is closed, the killer was found, sentence was given. I know, Cross replied. But something still bothers me. Why did Ethan Drake commit suicide? He only got a prison sentence, not death penalty. Why did he kill himself? Emma held Cross's hand. Maybe remorse. Maybe regret. Maybe, Cross thought. But Drake didn't seem like a man who regretted so easily. Cold, calculating, emotionless. Suicide doesn't fit him. What are you thinking? Emma asked curiously. Cross narrowed his eyes. Maybe Drake didn't commit suicide. Maybe someone else killed him. Emma was surprised. Who? Why? I don't know. But Drake's past was dark. He had connections with organized crime. Maybe he had debts, maybe he had enemies. Maybe someone didn't want him talking in prison. Emma looked at Cross with concern. You're not going to reopen this case, are you? Cross took a deep breath. No. The case is closed. But sometimes, at night, I think about Drake's last moments. In his cell, alone, wrapping the sheet around his neck. Or maybe he wasn't alone. Maybe someone was there, forced him. Emma hugged Cross. You think too much. Don't wear yourself out like this. You provided justice for Jennifer Morrison. You couldn't have done more. Cross relaxed a bit in Emma's warmth. Maybe she was right. Maybe some questions would remain unanswered forever. But a few weeks later, while Cross was sitting in his office, an unexpected visitor came. The door opened, a middle-aged man entered, suited, serious-faced, showed his FBI badge. Detective Cross. I'm Special Agent Michael Torres, FBI Organized Crime Unit. I need to talk to you. Cross stood up, they shook hands. FBI. About what? Torres sat down, pulled out a file. About Ethan Drake. The Jennifer Morrison case you conducted intersects with an investigation we've been conducting for a long time. Cross's heart quickened. What kind of investigation? Ethan Drake wasn't just a construction man, Torres explained, his voice low and serious. He was part of the Northeastern money laundering network. For local mafia organizations, he was converting dirty money into clean investments. Construction projects, real estate transactions, all a front. Cross listened in astonishment. I didn't know this. Because Drake was very careful. He evaded the FBI's radar for years. But in the last few years, we started examining records. And we discovered something. Jennifer Morrison had learned about Drake's dirty business. Cross's eyes widened. What? Torres pulled out some documents from the file. Jennifer Morrison was an intelligent businesswoman. During partnership negotiations with Drake, she examined Drake's financial records. And she saw abnormalities, unexplained transfers, offshore accounts, suspicious companies. Jennifer started investigating this. And Drake became aware of it. Pieces began to fall into place. So Drake killed Jennifer not just because she was a business obstacle, but also because she could expose the money laundering network. Exactly, Torres confirmed. Jennifer had become a threat. And Drake silenced her. Cross leaned back, a new picture forming in his mind. So Drake's suicide? Was it really suicide? Torres looked with a dark expression. That's why I'm here to answer this question. As the FBI, we're re-examining Drake's death. There were security cameras in the prison, but that night the camera in Drake's corridor malfunctioned. The guards were also strangely elsewhere at that time. Too much coincidence, isn't it? Cross's heart sank. So someone killed Drake. So he wouldn't talk. This case is much deeper than you thought. To learn the real reason behind Jennifer's death and the mystery of Drake's suicide, keep watching until the end. This channel is full of true crime stories and unsolved mysteries. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. Probably. Drake was a dangerous witness even in prison. The mafia may have wanted to eliminate him. Or someone else. Someone else? Cross asked. Torres closed the file, stood up. Detective Cross, the FBI's investigation continues. My request from you is to share all records related to the Jennifer Morrison case with us. Maybe there are other clues, we can uncover Drake's connections. Cross nodded. Of course. I'll give you everything. Torres stopped while walking toward the door, turned back. Detective, you did a good job. You provided justice for Jennifer Morrison. But this story isn't over yet. Deeper down, there are darker secrets. And we will uncover them. After Torres left, Cross sat for a long time, thinking. The Jennifer Morrison case was much more complex than he thought. It wasn't just a murder, organized crime, money laundering, betrayal, conspiracy. And Ethan Drake's death was probably another murder. That evening, Cross told Emma everything at home. Emma listened with concern. "So this case will be reopened?" Emma asked. "The FBI's investigation continues," Cross replied. "But my role is over. I provided justice for Jennifer Morrison. The rest is the FBI's job." Emma relaxed. "Good. Because this case wore you out. You should take a break." Cross smiled, kissed Emma. "You're right. But you know, this job is like this. One case ends, another begins. But every case has meaning. Every victim has a story. And I'm here to tell those stories, to provide justice." More months passed. The FBI's investigation continued quietly. From time to time, they asked Cross, requested information, but didn't share details. Cross was also busy, new cases, new murders, secrets hidden in Portland's dark corners. One day, while Cross was reading the newspaper, he saw a small news item. FBI raids Northeastern Mafia gang, 15 people arrested. The news mentioned Drake's name, that he was part of a money laundering network. And most importantly, it stated that the FBI had carried out this operation with intelligence that helped solve the Jennifer Morrison murder. Cross smiled. Jennifer's death hadn't been in vain. She, even with her death, had brought down a large crime network. Had provided justice. Years passed. Cross retired. Johnson continued working at the homicide desk with new detectives. Katherine Morrison one day sent Cross a card, from a distant city, from a new life. "I found peace," it said. "I live with Jennifer's memory, but no longer with guilt, with love." Cross read the card, smiled. Maybe everyone, eventually, somehow healed. One winter day, Cross visited his old office. The whiteboard was still there, but now full of new cases. Jennifer Morrison's photograph had been removed, there were other victims now. Johnson saw Cross, hugged him. "How are you, old partner?" "I'm good," Cross replied. "Retirement suits me well. But sometimes, I miss the old days." "Do you remember the Jennifer Morrison case?" Johnson asked. Of course, Cross smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "That case taught me a lot. That justice isn't always easy. That even when we win, there are losers." Johnson nodded. "But you gave Jennifer a voice. She wasn't forgotten. Her story was told." "Yes," Cross took a deep breath. "And that's the most important thing." In the darkness of night, on Portland streets, new murders were being committed, new secrets were being hidden. But within every darkness, there was a light. People fighting for justice, detectives giving voice to the dead, prosecutors telling stories. And Jennifer Morrison's story would not be forgotten. She was a young, beautiful, life-filled woman. She became a victim of greed, of betrayal. But her death brought down a crime network, ensured justice's victory. Cross, returning home that night, looked at the sky. The stars were shining, cold but beautiful. Maybe Jennifer was there, at peace. Maybe she was safe now. And Cross said a prayer inside. "Jennifer, we provided justice for you. I hope you're at peace now." The wind blew, the cold Portland wind. But Cross's heart was warm. Because he had done his duty. Had fought against darkness. And had won. 10 years later, at a university in Portland, a criminology class was being taught. Young students were examining murder cases, learning forensic science. And that day, the professor presented an exemplary case. The Jennifer Morrison case, the professor began, projecting photographs on the screen. A murder that occurred in Portland in the early 2020s. A young woman was killed by her business partner. But this case wasn't just a murder. Organized crime, money laundering, betrayal, all were together. The students listened carefully, took notes. The detective who solved this case was Daniel Cross. He conducted a systematic investigation, collected evidence, interrogated witnesses, and finally provided justice. Jennifer Morrison's killer received his punishment. And her death helped bring down a larger crime network. The professor looked at the students. What do we learn from this case? That justice isn't easy. That sometimes it takes years. But it's always possible. A student raised her hand. Professor, what is Detective Cross doing now? The professor smiled. Cross retired. But he still, from time to time, consults for the police. Trains young detectives. Shares his experiences. Because he never lost his faith in justice. After class ended, the students went outside. In the campus garden, an old man was sitting, white-haired, wrinkled face, but still that sharp look in his eyes. A student approached the man. Excuse me, are you Detective Daniel Cross? The man smiled. Yes, I was. But now just Daniel. The student got excited. I heard about the Jennifer Morrison case. You did an incredible job. Cross looked into the distance, years ago, to that cold beach, Jennifer's body lying among the rocks. Thank you. But I only did my duty. The real hero was Jennifer. She, even with her death, revealed the truth. The student nodded. I want to be a detective too. Like you. Cross looked at the student, smiled. Then let me give you advice. Never give up. Never give up on justice. Because darkness will always exist. But you can be the light. The student thanked Cross, walked away. Cross sat there, watched the sun set. Portland was still the same Portland, gray sky, cold wind, and a city with hidden secrets. But Cross knew, every darkness had an end. Every murder had a solution. And every victim had a story. Jennifer Morrison's story had ended. But her legacy continued. She wasn't just a victim, she was a symbol who provided justice, exposed evil, and would be remembered forever. And Cross would carry her story forever. In his heart, in his mind, in his soul. Because justice never died. It just waited. For the right time, the right people, the right courage. And Jennifer Morrison had found justice. This event shows us once again that no crime remains hidden. To not miss these kinds of mysterious and terrifying true events, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like and comment on our video. To watch mysterious and terrifying events, see you in our next videos.